Hey guys, this is Andrei, your real estate agent and certified translator in Belarus, and I couldn't resist doing a little Christmas issue of the local update, so to speak, and it gives you notice from the decorations. We'll just alter one little thing in this bad Santa settings. We'll be mostly talking rumors, gossip, personal reflections, personal messages from me to my audience, which is mostly good, nice people. And let's get started. Some of the audience are actually my clients. They know why exactly I work in the settings like this, minus the Christmas hat, of course. My work involves a lot of walking, driving, running about just to get you first in the line and get you out of the bureaucratic office in 30 minutes instead of half a day. Generally, I'm very allergic to any leather-coated furniture, some spacious offices, which all go into your bill, by the way, if you prefer such things. And generally, I prefer a human touch to the communication and call white things white and calling black things black. Sometimes I'm too straightforward doing this, but that's how I am, and I'm proud to be able to keep my style rather than getting some company charter upon my shoulders and smile those, insincere McDonald's smiles to people that I don't like. People that I don't like, I'm not dealing with. That's the point. In the modern world of media, it's a bit hard to tell what's gonna hit you first, as YouTube censorship or some kind of local operators or agencies that are allergic to different content posted or voiced even outside your kitchen. I'm in my client's kitchen. It's a nice place in western Minsk, Dzerzhinsky Avenue. The water is of really ugly quality, by the way. Filters don't help much. So that's not the point. The point is, many thanks to my contributors, channel helpers, channel Patreon sponsors, to my channel members. Most of this colorful picture is coming out because you still believe in me, and many thanks for that. What's gonna be voiced now is just my personal opinion. I'm still sober, it's still beginning of the day here, December 24th. Maybe we'll meet with some expats tonight at the announced place. It will be underneath the video, in the video description. I would like to point out again that this is my personal opinion. This isn't really an information release, just a digest of headlines and some thoughts of mine that I'm sharing with you. I'll accent the point that 1 year ago I said the economy is gonna go down in 5 weeks, and I was wrong. So I'm not really willing to make any predictions or analysis breakdown for the year for two reasons. Firstly, this table is too small for that kind of thing. If you remember the Kremlin tables for the big meetings, they're a little bit bigger, so you have more detailed charts on them. And secondly, analysis of any kind with more or less guaranteed outcomes is really not coming for free. But I'm happy to share my thoughts with you, and I'm happy that you are finding free time to listen to this. Russian-Ukrainian war seems to be coming to its end. As a businessman, I hate wars. I don't like aggressive resolution of a contract. And even the crooks we're going to discuss later, our Indian and Pakistani friends who borrowed a lot of money from their Indian friend, they are unwilling to cooperate, which forces us to undertake legal action, address the police, and pull other strings just to make them very uncomfortable. We'll touch upon this later. But speaking of Ukraine, the draft rules have stepped up. They're drafting women now, they're drafting football teams, and some other similar things are in place. And Russia seemingly doesn't have a shortage of manpower in the front line. Although there are various different reports on this, I will not be arguing or even discussing the reasons. Let's just recall the facts. Western media, in this way or the other, by removing that Ukrainian flag from the header, by injecting headlines which are bigger and bigger in size of the font, suggest that Ukrainian side is not going to be achieving its goals that it has set before itself to return to the 1991 or 94 borders. Was it? And there must be some kind of a peace deal because the Western capitals and military warehouses are running short of supplies. In light of the ongoing war, Russian economy is really not increasing. As a guy on the ground, as an operator, then tour guide in 2014, I noticed that after this rather swift Crimea takeover, Russian tourists started spending less, and clearly so by 2018 2019. Now this new year is going to show us how many Russian money spenders will be recreating here instead of the rest of the civilized Europe, let's go this way, and we'll see which way it's going to go after March the 17th, was it? That's when the Russian elections are taking place. Russian ruble value is not reflecting its market value because exchange rate was lowered artificially after September, let's say, stirrings in the media that ruble has reached 100 rubles against a dollar level, and that's not very good, so they dropped it to 90 rubles against a dollar. And only market operators can really tell us how valuable ruble is now. But its buying power is lower now, and after March, the valuation, pretty massive one in Russia, may be a possibility. 2014 Crimean sanctions, by the way, got most of the niche countries, stuff like French wines and Italian cheeses and stuff like this, sanctioned out of Russia. And that's how the country that will be nameless started repacking thousands of tons of this stuff into Made in Belarus labels, and this cheerfully found its way to Russia. So you can see how effective the Western sanctions may be, although now there's some 20,000 sanctions against Russia, and still the country seems to be doing well, rebuilding its economy eastwards and dodging the sanctions the best way it can. By the way, some EU bureaucrats were heard of actually running businesses which were directly responsible for shipping stuff to Russia. We will not discuss the nature of this stuff, but basically they were dealing with Russia very much. And I was myself surprised to learn the other day there are operators here that have just entered the US market. And that's kind of interesting in light of all the sanction stuff and just one bank capable of handling incoming dollar and euro transfers into Belarus from abroad. Oil and gas winnings for Russia are shrinking because their traditional, through the last 2 years, clients like China and India are not really cooperative. India was buying oil for rupees, which was a step away from the US dollar, but now Russia is sitting on the stack of rupees that apparently are just useless, basically, because there isn't that much that India can supply to Russia to make use of this currency. The huge oil tanker fleet that Russia acquired to be able to shift its oil to its southern clients is now under sanctions as well. There are a few big boats with dripping oil in the Indian Ocean somewhere, standing by unloading, except it can't happen unless there is a sea unloading, which brings its own risks from environmental to commercial ones, because Indians just don't want to play with sanctions, and that's unfortunate for the Russian buyers of those old tankers, because they're just ancient. There was a fortune spent on them, and apparently that's now useless. Just as useless as 300 billion euro worth of money that was blocked by Europe, but they're like carefully, meticulously researching the way to steal it from Russia and put it into the disrupted infrastructure of Ukraine. The philosophical context of this will remain undiscussed. The point is that let's say economy of our friends, and now we're pretty badly Russian-oriented economy ourselves, is not benefiting, and the growth of 3.5% comes out of some fiddling with figures pretty much. Overpaid army personnel, and based on average Russian salaries of, say, 50,000 rubles a month, 200,000 rubles a month for the military seems very handsome. They're paid their salaries, and the injured personnel gets their compensations, and of course their compensations for the losses of family members. All this is not helping the economy because this money is not earned in a normal way. The manufactured goods, the tanks, the rockets and everything, they're not really helping to, build economy its normal, natural way. They are exploding, they're destroying themselves, drones and stuff. So that's not really how 3.5% GDP can be estimated as such. It's a little bit of play with the figures. And the defense industry is having 30% GDP allocations within the next year, it seems, in Russia. So that kind of investment definitely speaks of some oncoming issues for the rest of the economy. because that military economy is drawing people to work at the enterprises, plants, factories of the defense sector from the subsidized poor regions of Russia. They are taking loans, they are buying their new stuff they were always dreaming of with the new opportunities. And if all this were to come to an end, and it just can't last forever on its own naturally, the unpaid, unreturned loans and all these installments and everything will be just buried somewhere, and the system is not gonna benefit from this. On top of the tunnel-visioned life planning by the overpaid factory workers now, we also have the potentially large groups of demobbed personnel. And we'll leave the psychological and philosophical issues on the side here. There will be guys who would have to find their niche in life that was fast changing after they left home and spent more than a year at the front line. These guys would have to adapt again to the new realities, and that's gonna bring some unemployed and potentially quite aggressive ones to the Russian labor market, and that's not good for the economy. Also, a great deal of runaways, GDP generators essentially, IT guys and all other kinds of niche specialists, doctors on top of others, so it's not just to focus on IT, are outside the country. Many are forever. We won't say they're exclusively ran away. Some actually did come back, and that's also the point. And some of them are relaxed and are not feeling the mobilization of some kind is coming again. But again, the huge outflow of people who were capable, smart thinking, okay, they were critical, the regime didn't like it, that loss is also gonna hit the economy in the long-term run. And generally for now, Russia has been more or less successfully dodging the sanctions by our Western friends, because our Western friends are really not transparent, they're not integral, whatever word you can use for non-corrupt. They're pretty corrupt, and they are definitely not minding earning business on the ongoing troubles from both sides. So with all these factors and many other things that I just can't voice because I either don't know them or they're too, let's say, straightforward to be voiced, I would say that Russia is going to dodge the sanctions, not endlessly, but so far more or less effectively. It didn't help to drop their economy and stop their economy, and ours tied up to it as well. And because of the enormous EU bureaucracy, because of the multiple rather contradictory opinions, because of corruption, which also exists in EU by looks of it, and pragmatic interests of different EU bureaucrats who themselves operate those businesses dodging their own goddamn sanctions. And again, just a remark, as a business operator here in Belarus, I very much object sanctions of all kinds, although they also present an opportunity, but they hamper a natural flow of ways, ideas, capitals, and people in different directions, and they're not productive. A little bit of personal stuff. Now, I have been relocating people to Belarus for the last 3 years. Now there's an army of some 50 plus people. Most of them are in the country. I know only 3 or 4 cases when people actually left. And some of those who stayed and some of those who left actually proved that my paradigm, my techniques are working. And in the first line, the general message here, I'm not selling anything specific, but solutions. I'm not selling houses, I'm not selling flats, I'm not selling equipment of any kind. I am consulting and facilitating people's change of life, essentially. One of the major updates this year, mostly those were Americans, half a dozen, but still there were Americans relocating here to Belarus. The village houses get checked on the ground, which I'm very happy about, because although it brings up some added bureaucracy to the application, the technique still works. It's still a $9,000 ticket for the good Europeans or Americans to get their 1-year residency. And some of my 2021 baby refugees are now getting their shiny flats, mostly in Minsk, and this works. Village houses change their hands, some people upgrade them, some people buy new lodge. The whole thing is working basically, and people are staying here. Just now we're shopping for a flat for my European client, a shiny one-room flat. We started with the traditional cheapest thing for a base, Khrushchevka, $45,000, but after having seen what we saw, the endless horrors of the budget market of Minsk, we ended up with Borovaya option, Novaya Borovaya, for around $60,000. I'll basically shoot a dedicated video on how it ended. One of my clients, an American guy if I recall, left for China with his new wife. He's in his 40s, she's in her 20s. The funny thing that struck me is that she deletes any contacts on his phone that she believes are not work related. As we were driving about and his village house went to another American, we were talking about all these private life things, but seems like it's a very curious marriage, and it's curious how long it's going to last with that kind of a mistrust level and limitation level of the freedoms of by default freedom-loving guy from the West. I was not thinking there, so tell me the best word to use for this when Madame, who is not really of the same age, for some reason runs the whole show for them, and they're like, okay, yes, we'll get it done. Yes, honey, I'll be back home in 2 hours and 5 minutes. At any rate, that client who married that young girl was one of the best and most human guys with good approach to his contracted workforce, that is myself. Always paid his flat bills in time, taxes and everything. Just a model guy. I'm wishing him all the best, and maybe we'll see each other again at some point. My French client left the country because of the strange conduct of his girlfriend. He was a solid guy. He served in the army. He was in his 50s with his pretty handsome business. He rented one of the most expensive flats in town. And after his girlfriend asked him if there were any cameras in the building, which is a very strange thing from, let's say, any half-smart girlfriend to ask, when she's entering building of that kind, it's a very strange thing. Then the other thing that rang alarm bells for him was when he left the country. He basically a few hours before he left the country, he bumped into guys who could be her friends, and they asked him by name if that was him. They were looking for him in the lobby of his building, and he said, no, it wasn't. It's not me. I'm not this guy. Quickly went upstairs, packed his stuff, ran away from the country. Left his company hanging in the air to the enormous delight of the accountant, and I had to resolve some of the checkout issues for him for the flat later on a power of attorney. So it sounds like some 1990s mafia drama from Russia, but things just don't add up very well. That kind of thing, that kind of crime, let's say, or whatever they were planning to do to him is not really typical of Minsk from any angle. It's the first case like this I'm having on my hands. And I wish he just called me to try and get in touch with these crooks and resolve the matter before even we called any police. I mean, legally, diplomatically, talk to each other, see what the point of problem is, and, work out some solutions. And then maybe call the cops. This French runaway case also showed that my technique with real estate is much better, because the company, which will never return invested $4,000 plus all the moves related to it, will die on its own peacefully, and the property would have just changed hands, returning the guy his money paid for the ticket, so to speak. So that is still backing the house idea. For 2024, which is a promising, challenging year, hopefully, I'm not sure what I'm going to record in 365 days after having said this, I have a new business concept. All the village houses will become nice barn houses of roughly $60,000 worth, and we'll be reselling them to the new individuals who are coming into the country, who wish to get some fresh village air, maybe chicken eggs, and enjoy the infrastructure of the nearby cities. So these are going to be small villages with a few dozen strong community, with a fully built and furnished house. I'll video blog that as well, of course. And any willing foreign capital holders are actually most welcome to take part in this little enterprise of mine. Although an American sponsor of this video, of this channel, essentially is very welcome to be #1 guy to test drive this new niche. We will benefit from dealing exactly with directly with the producer of the wooden parts, and he's the guy I worked with already. And construction and furniture production is the most mind-crashing thing to deal with here in Belarus. Not sure about the other countries, but many tourists since 2018 told me that, yeah, contractors in building and renovation are really ugly guys, and it's a lottery, but we'll see what happens out of that, and we'll film a shiny, nice video blog for you guys. Last but not least, the fat Rolls-Royce guys ran away to Latin America, from where he is doing some not so shiny blogs about things down there in Latin America and in Belarus. Sometimes mentioning topics that draw attention from his old audience, although the audience dropped by a few hundred guys who actually seem to have had some money. There are just a few thousand subscribers left who just like watching cartoons on a Sunday afternoon. And I seem to have official ways of making his life more challenging out there in the new country. I'll see if that works. By the way, if any of you guys have any connections in Brazil, I mean like high connections, I'll be interested to send a message officially from my company about this guy's dealings here in Belarus. Blessedly, it seems that the two twin Indian filmmakers are actually now just one Indian filmmaker. The two twin brothers in Belarus have been borrowing a lot of money, and one of them is out of the country already. The other has stayed, and I'll try to legally kick him out of this country by May next year. We'll see how it goes, and it's kind of going to be more challenging than my economic prediction for the year. But it seems that he has let's say, dug himself into a legal grave by going to the police and making statements that went on the paper, which is a perfect food for a tax office or a court. And my other client, who lost $40,000 investing into that restaurant, is now very happy to finish this deal in any way and not necessarily getting his money back. By the way, KJ, cheers from Belarus and Merry Christmas. I'm pretty sure you celebrate that thing as well. You're a pretty democratic guy. And we'll see what happens to that charming business guy who is not really a charming business guy. And for dessert, the Pakistani crook Zia Khan, a lawyer who is not a lawyer, the guy who is selling tickets to the Polish border, except he doesn't know the car director, so to speak, the guy who's actually a crook, cheerfully paraded out of the police office where we got him in April this year, and my greatest respect come to him as an escape artist, as a crook artist. I like when an operator is that capable and flexible. He's one of my subscribers, by the way, so Z, if you're watching this, Merry Christmas to you too. And I'm pretty confident that 2024 is gonna put a full stop in this guy's operations. If he's still in Belarus, we'll try to find a creative way of getting his introduction to the police here, and we'll share the outcome on another video with more Beethoven soundtracks at the back. So guys, this would be about it. Thank you very much for watching. The supporters, salute to you. Merry Christmas everybody who's celebrating. I mean, it's Merry Christmas, New Year and Merry Christmas over here, the Russian Orthodox and the Catholics. And cheers to Belarus. Hopefully 2024 is going to be more productive. Thank you and see you in Minsk someday. Cheers.